In this module, we'll have a closer look at how Task 2 essays are assessed. In other words, what criteria does the examiner use to decide what score you receive for your essay attempt? This will help you with organising your work and writing with a clear structure. Similarly to Task 1, the examiner assesses your Task 2 essay in 4 different areas or criteria. The examiner then uses a sliding scale of 0 to 9 for each criterion to award the overall mark for your Task 2 essay. Firstly, instead of a task achievement band score, as in Task 1 writing, a task response is used for Task 2. Your task response can be explained as how well you have answered the question. For example, the examiner will consider whether you have addressed the question directly or if you've decided to write off topic. The examiner will also decide whether you have a clear position, supported by reasons and examples. Remember that reasons and examples are part of the instructions in the question. So if you are asked to discuss the advantages and disadvantages, then clearly these 2 paragraphs need to be the body paragraphs of your essay. It's the same if you're required to discuss a problems and solutions essay. Your body paragraphs will need to cover these 2 areas, with 1 paragraph covering the problem at hand in the question, and the second paragraph covering any possible solutions that you can think of. Doing this means that you are covering the marking criteria aspects of task response. Likewise, discussing only the problem or only the solutions or only the advantages means that you'll get a lower score. In fact, the mark can be limited to a band 5 or below if your writing doesn't respond appropriately to the question. The second area of assessment is cohesion and coherence. This is directly related to the structure of your writing and how this helps the reader to navigate your work. Thinking about cohesion first means that your essay is organised logically and has a clear structure with an introduction, a body paragraph or paragraphs, and a conclusion. The essay needs to be divided clearly into paragraphs, and each paragraph needs to have a clear central idea. The idea of cohesion is attained by organising sentences within paragraphs that are logically in order and easy to read and understand. This can be done by using signalling words or linking words to introduce and connect relationships and ideas. Cohesion is also arranging the sentences as the reader might expect to find them. For example, using a topic sentence at or near the beginning of a paragraph. Thirdly is your lexical resource or your ability to use a range of vocabulary accurately and appropriately. Remember that you're expected to write an academic essay, so that the language that you use needs to be appropriate to this formal academic situation. Using less formal words or colloquial expressions or slang, for example, will stand out in your writing, and this will spoil the overall impression or the tone. The examiner will mark you down in this area because the language is inappropriate for this situation. Don't worry, even native speakers sometimes have issues in this area. Finally, there's grammatical range and accuracy, or in other words, how well you can use English grammar to explain and provide context. This doesn't just mean providing examples of English grammar, but using the grammar in such a way that you're able to explain more complicated or complex ideas, using, for example, tense and word forms to refer to different times in the past, or future and hypothetical or unreal situations. Being able to do this means we can explain complex examples, ideas and concepts to the reader. By the way, grammar also refers to accurate spellings and accurate punctuation too. We could talk about this criteria in more detail, but it's probably a good idea to look at some examples together and see how the criteria is directly applied. Let's look at a quick example question together. Many people want their country to host an international sporting event. Others believe that international sporting events bring more problems than benefits. Discuss both views and give your opinion. And then let's look at the student response. So this question is asking why people want their countries to host large sporting events such as the Olympics. So in other words, it's asking for the reasons for something. It's also suggesting that other people think there are more problems with this idea than benefits. Don't forget that it also wants you to give examples to support the reasons that you put forward. Let's look at the sample introduction and see how the student has responded to the question. Some people think international sports competitions bring few benefits to a country, whereas others champion such events. I feel that sports can play an important role in the development of a country's profile in one way or another, despite there being some drawbacks. It's very easy to see that there are a lot of keywords and phrases from the question which have been paraphrased in the introduction. Importantly, the writer indicates in their introduction they will answer why countries host these events. So from the introduction, the assessor or the examiner can see that the task response seems to be on topic, and it's likely to address all parts of the task with suitable clear reasons. The writer also clearly puts forward their own position. Let's turn to the body paragraphs next. Pause the video and spend a few minutes just to read this and see what you think. So I think in terms of coherence and cohesion, we can see that the paragraphs have a clear structure with one central idea. Don't confuse examples and explanations with the central idea. The writer intends to show why these events are useful or beneficial. It seems clear that the major reason for hosting this kind of event is to raise the profile and prestige of a nation. The main ideas are introduced by the phrases at the beginning, and we can see how this relates back to the essay question by either repeating or paraphrasing keywords from the question. The writer is also using some signalling and linking words to show a change or a relationship in the text, as well as referencing words to refer back to ideas and for providing explanations. For example, international football events are huge money spinners which can benefit local bars, restaurants and hotels. All of these techniques help to create coherence and cohesion in an essay, and they add to the overall progression of the writing, which is the effect on the reader. So far we've covered the first two areas of assessment: the response, or how to answer the question, and the organisation. What about the remaining two areas? Let's start with lexical resource or vocabulary, and let's look at paragraph 1 again. Pause the video and just have a read through. Here we could say that the writer shows that they have a wide range of vocabulary, or wide enough to describe the idea of prestige by using synonyms, that is, words and phrases which have a similar meaning. They've also used some expressions which are regarded as being less common, and this also shows a good lexical range. If we look at grammatical range and accuracy in the body paragraphs, it's clear that they're using complex sentences, and a range of grammatical structures such as the passive voice to explain complex ideas. And this also improves the overall impression of a good command of English grammar. I don't think the writer has tried to use these structures on purpose, they've simply been used as part of the writing process. This illustrates why planning what you say is important, because it helps you write about more complex ideas. Finally, it's important to take a look at the writer's conclusion. Can you see how this writer has linked their conclusion back to the essay question by paraphrasing key words? They've also used a reference word which refers back to the central ideas in the body paragraphs, and all of these techniques combined strengthen the overall coherence and cohesion of the writing. What I mean by this is that it appears that there is progression throughout the writing, and none of their ideas stand out in a negative way. Looking at the essay as one text, it's clear that 270 words in length is sufficient for the task, and they've decided to use 4 clear paragraphs. We can safely say the writer has answered all parts of the question well with sufficient content, and they've provided relevant examples and reasons to support their main ideas. They've done this by organising their ideas logically in paragraphs and their choice of sentences. Finally, we can see there's a good range of sentence structures and appropriate word choices, which adds to the overall task response. So finally, to recap, in Task 2 you're asked to give an opinion about a contemporary issue and provide support of your opinion with reasons and examples. You need to identify the issue in the question and recognise the scope. A good point is that issues are likely to be familiar to most students. Not all the tasks are the same, however. By reading the question carefully, you can decide whether you need to present a solution, or compare and contrast evidence, or think about the opinions of other people. As I've just said, the task and the question is a brief general statement which you don't need any specialist knowledge of, and you're marked on your use of language rather than on your opinion. This means that the examiner will not be judgmental on what you have to say, but will simply consider the 4 criteria of the task response: cohesion and coherence, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. If you're not up to date with current topics or current affairs, some typical task topics that you could review include thinking about technology, culture, education, family, transportation, the environment, crime, and work and entertainment. So if you're unfamiliar with these topic areas, it's always a good idea to do some kind of research so you can form your own opinions.